If you're coming to Serbia and looking to hire contractors and you're used to one way of seeing contractors, Serbia is going to surprise you when it comes to dealing with contractors in skilled trades, and that's what we're going to talk to you about today. Now, I come from 23 years of electrical contracting as a commercial industrial electrician in Canada, and we see contractors have a certain image in Canada, United States, and a lot of these Western cultures or countries, should I say. But one thing that I noticed here in Serbia is when you hire contractors or the people that we've worked with that are looking to get contractors, they say, hey, listen, you would never see this. You would never expect this from contractors from where I'm from. But here in Serbia, it's very common to see. And so we're going to talk about a couple of the big differences that we see here in Serbia when it comes to contractors and skilled trades than what you would expect to see in the Western cultures. Now, one thing that you see in Canada and United States is that there's a huge licensing process in these countries in order to become a drywaller, a HVAC installer, a plumber, electrician, a framer, any of those type of things. You're going to need a license in order to get these to able to get work done through a company or open up your own company. Whereas here in Serbia, you don't have any of that. A lot of these people that are tradespeople, they have learned through their fathers, through their grandparents, through families and friends. And so a lot of these people, they are self-taught, which depending on how you look at it, I think it might be a little bit better because there's tricks of the trade that you'll learn from other individuals, whereas what I learned in trade school in Canada really was not applicable to what I did out on the field. And I think that's a huge disconnect in the Western cultures when it comes to trades, is that they teach you one thing in the classroom, test you on one thing in the classroom, but when you get out to the field, you don't know how to turn a screwdriver. Where here, there people can think outside the box here in Serbia and get your project, your issues remedied as soon as possible. One of the other things is that in the Western cultures, a lot of these businesses want to look professional. And so what you'll see is they have logos, they have uniforms, they have all this technology when they come and visit you as a client to do a quote. There's a lot of due diligence that's involved. Whereas here in Serbia, you don't have any of that either. It's completely opposite. They typically do not have uniforms. They come in shorts and t-shirts. They come in cars, just regular cars, no logos. And one of the big things is, and it's a joke in Canada, particularly, if you see someone show up to your property to do some sort of renovation in a Honda Civic or some sort of Toyota, they're doing it as a side job. That this guy is not legit. He's not actually professional. But here in Serbia, it's very common to see people show up in just cars. I've seen people show up on their electric scooters, on their bicycles, depending on what it was. We've worked with a couple plumbers here in Serbia that showed up on their moped, right? They've strapped their tools to the back of their moped, showed up, came, did the work. They had everything that they need. You supplied the the material that you needed. So if it was a sink install, you provide the sink, you provide the faucet, you provide the boiler, which is something that you wouldn't see in the North American buildings as well. What do you mean boiler underneath your sink for an install? Yeah, depending on the situation and how the building's built, you might need a boiler underneath your sink, which for me, coming from North America, I kind of like that idea because I don't have to wait for the water to travel from the other side of the house where the water heater is or the on-demand system. I have a boiler underneath the sink, so literally I turn on the sink faucet and you get hot water. So that's another one. You'll have people that will be showing up in, like I said, no uniforms, shorts, t-shirts, maybe even a tank top, wearing Crocs, smoking a cigarette. That's very common here in Serbia. And if that's something that you're going to be thrown off about, good thing you're watching this video, because that's something to expect. Now, we've worked with a couple contractors that were cabinet installers here in Serbia, and they came very professionally. They came, looked at what we wanted, color coded our clients for their cabinets, the countertops, soft close or no soft close, hinges, yada yada yada. What appliances are you putting in? All that type of stuff. Gave us 3D drawings. Gave us a timeline to get this installed. They showed up on time. They did all the work properly. There was no swearing. There was no drinking alcohol. There was no smoking. None of that. And so you get a very wide variety of tradespeople that you will get. And you will get some tradespeople that you're used to seeing in these Western cultures, but more often than not, they're going to be showing up with things that you would not expect. For instance, we had a client of ours that wanted an HVAC system installed in their property, like a dual split. And what they said is, hey, listen, do you have a contact number? I gave them contact number, said, hey, listen, these people, they're going to show up in 2 vehicles. They're going to be 1 adult and a bunch of kids. But listen, don't look at them. They're going to be literally doing the job perfectly, professionally. Everything's going to work. It's all going to be covered under warranty. And don't worry about it. And sure enough, they came, they did the work, everything was done correctly, everything was, done with warranty work, all the paperwork, and had no issues whatsoever. Another thing that you'll notice here in Serbia that you wouldn't expect, but it's very common here, wherein you see in Canada, United States, or all these Western countries, is that a lot of these businesses have websites in North America, right? You look someone up, you're going to want to see what their website is, what their services are, what are their Google reviews, what are other people saying in forums about these companies, job postings these companies should have as well. But here in Serbia, you're lucky if you find someone with a website. A lot of the contractors that you find here in Serbia are going to be word of mouth. It's going to be about who you know and not what you know. And so if you know how to use the internet, well, that's good for you, but who do you know that can connect you with that person, because they're not going to be on the internet. Now, I'm not saying that all companies don't have a website, but even those that do, they're not fully functional. Sometimes they don't even work, or they went out of business and they just left their website on there. So finding people in Serbia is more of, a network of who do you know that knows somebody that can connect you with that person, and not just simply jumping onto Google or whatever you're using on the internet to find contractors. That is another big one. The other thing that I notice here in Serbia is that safety is at an all-time low when it compares to Western countries. A lot of these tradespeople that you see, not only that show up to our clients or even my properties, or that you see on construction sites, they don't wear safety. There's no hard hats, there's no safety shoes, there's no reflective vest, there's no gloves, there's no eyeglasses. Some of them are wearing tank tops, some of them are wearing shorts, and a lot of that in Canada particularly is against the rules. It does not matter if it's 40 degrees outside in the middle of summer. You in Canada on a construction site are still required to wear jeans, reflective vest, a hard hat, safety glasses, safety boots, and not just safety shoes. They have to be at least a 6-inch boot, or if not an 8-inch boot, depending on the company that you're working for, the GC on that job, but here in Serbia, you don't see that. It's quite common also to see people walking off the construction site at 9 a.m., going to the store and walking back with a 6-pack of beers because that's what they're going to be doing. That's very common. And then as they're working, you'll see them with a cigarette butt hanging out of their mouth. That's very common as well. Swearing and cursing is very common to hear coming off a job site. That's just simply how it is. There's no one here to say, oh, that's offensive, it shouldn't be hearing that. The contractors here also on job sites, they don't fence off the area. So when they're done the work, they just leave home, and then in the evenings, you'll see kids playing on the construction sites. When you go and visit properties that are new construction, you're going to go visit them while they're in construction, because that's something that is able to be done here in Serbia. When our client was getting their HVAC system installed, they said, hey, listen, that outdoor unit had to go outside. And so they used the window to put that unit outside. However, the drain hose, they need to tie it up. And what did they do? One guy hung out the window at his waist with his legs dangling up, and 2 guys held him by the ankle so that he could reach over so he wouldn't fall out the window. You would not see that in Canada. You would not see that in the United States, because safety is so upheld at a high standard. You have all these rules and regulations that it almost makes it impossible for you to do your job as a contractor or as a skilled tradesperson. It's absolutely, I'm not saying it's a great thing to see here, but it's nice to see that people here can be responsible to work the way that they see fit, that it makes it comfortable for them. I'm not saying that, people don't get injured here, but you don't have the social programs here like you would see in Canada, United States, like WSIB, workman's comp, all that stuff. Here, from what I understand, is if you get hurt, you're on your own. And so the best thing is not to get hurt. Now, that being said, one of the things I can say is all the people that I've worked with and our clients have worked with, when it comes to tradespeople, they get the job done correctly, and it's good work. They don't like to leave things, done willy-nilly. That's one thing you can see here in Serbia. Serbian people are very proud of not only their nationality, but of their work, and their work reflects who they are. And so it's very common to see people, just because they show up a way that you don't like them to show up, or they have an image of how they're that you don't like, that means that their work's going to be, subpar. That's not the case here. The work is done very professionally, it's done very good, and you have no issue to call them back, get them in for other work, because that's how the work is done here and passed along, is word of mouth. So if you have word of mouth marketing that says you're a bad tradesman, that you're not going to get any work. If you're a good tradesman, you're going to get work, and that's how it's done here in Serbia. The work here is done also very fast. Depending on who you've worked with, some people have said that their tradespeople didn't show up on time, they didn't pick up their phone, whatever it might be. You're going to have good and bad tradesmen no matter where you go in the world. In Canada, you had good people, even with all the licensing and safety implementations, and then you had bad people. Just like any other profession out there, you're going to have good ones and you're going to have bad ones. And if you have an experience with a bad one, you might think that they're all bad. But if you have good experience with good ones, you're typically not going to look for anyone else, because you're just going to use the ones that you've had good experiences with. And that's one of the things that we're able to do for our clients looking to move to Serbia, is we're able to put you in contact with the correct people that you need in order to get things done around your properties. The biggest one that I've also noticed here, and I'm not saying this to demonize or put anyone down, is that the tradespeople here are paid a lot less than what they are paid in North America. That's simply because the cost of living is and running a business in North America is substantially more. However, it does not cost me for a service call $200, $300 to get someone to come in for a 5-minute job. It does not cost hundreds of thousands of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars to have a house rewired here in Serbia. And so if that's something you want to get done, it's a lot more cost effective to have it done here in Serbia than it would in Canada. And at the same time, you might gain a friend by hiring them and having them in your home. And that is another beautiful thing here in Serbia, is people are very welcoming, very friendly, love to joke around, love to, build that relationship, that bond. And it's something that you, again, don't experience in Western cultures. I hope that you've gained some insight as to and some great knowledge when it comes to hiring contractors here in Serbia. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please leave a comment in the comment section of this video. Feel free to reach out to us at relocationserbia.com if you need any help in regards to moving or visiting Serbia. We will be dropping a relocation guide in the near future for those that are looking to come and visit or move to Serbia. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.